Good evening, Dodger fans. We are one win away from clinching it all, the 2024 World Series. One more win away. Your Los Angeles Dodgers took care of business tonight at Yankee Stadium, a 4-2 victory. We are now up 3-0. You are listening to the Incline Dodgers podcast presented by TickPick and FanSided. Kevin Klein speaking. And I'm joined by Chris Camello, who's been with us throughout the year. Chris, we've had some lows. We are running on a lot of highs right now. How you doing tonight?
Man, I was on with you guys 2 weeks ago, you and Jake, and we were about ready to hammer that nail into the coffin. And funny what a difference 2 weeks makes. Goes from one loss away from elimination to now one win away from jubilation. Unbelievable. But as the late, great Kobe Bryant once said, Klein, job's not done. But I appreciate you having me on tonight, and let's get this party started.
Let's get it started. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll get more people rolling in as the show gets a little going. I'm going to ask later on what champagne bottle I need to buy, but I don't want to get ahead of myself just yet. Let's talk about tonight. And the story, once again, has been the Dodgers starting pitching, coming through and setting the tone in the series. Walker Buehler on the mound for Game 3, and he gave the Dodgers everything they needed and more. 5 scoreless innings, 5 strikeouts, just 2 hits, 2 walks, and Dave Roberts pulled him after 76 pitches. Buehler never labored at all tonight. He was in complete command of this game. It was his game to dominate, and Walker Buehler in the World Series once again looking like just an absolute maniac out there. Whenever it's World Series time, Walker Buehler comes to play, and his World Series numbers back it up in 3 World Series games now that Buehler started. So 2018, 2020, and now 2024. He's pitched at least 5 innings, has, I believe, a ridiculous ERA of like 180 or something, and has allowed fewer than 5 base runners in all 3 appearances. Walker Buehler, sensational outing. More apologies to come, but let's stop there and let's get Chris's thoughts on Walker Buehler.
The epitome of a big game pitcher. And this is how you know he's a big game pitcher. When John Smoltz, who everyone knows does not like the Dodgers, is constantly kissing this dude's ass, then you know he's doing something right. And I think Smoltz either really loves Walker Buehler or sees, himself into Buehler. But man, this guy, and I think you could also throw Kev Yoshi Yamamoto in there. They have hit their stride at the right time. And that is the key to success in the postseason in postseason baseball. Hitting your stride at the right time, getting hot at the right time. That is important. And for Walker Buehler, what we've seen in these 3 starts in these playoffs so far is that this guy shows no fear of the moment. Yeah, he gave up 6 runs in Game 3. That was not all on him. That was some bad defense behind him. He got soft contact, a lot of infield hits, a couple of mistake pitches, but let's be honest, that wasn't all on him. The start against the Mets and what we saw here tonight, absolutely tremendous. I would have maybe sent him out there for the 6th inning, but they played it safe tonight. They had the arms after a day rest, so they decided to go with those guys tonight, even though they weren't exactly super sharp, but they got the job done. And Buehler is the epitome of a big game pitcher, and this is a guy that does not fear the moment, and he has really gotten comfortable with this new version of himself. I think that's the key in this whole thing. Comfortable with this new version of himself.
100%. And you look at what he did tonight. He had 9 swings and misses. The pitch velocity, his fastball was averaging about 94 to 95 miles per hour. And kind of like you were just talking about, Walker Buehler has really found himself in the postseason. This is not the same pitcher we saw during the regular season. When he was first coming off the IL, he was more of a thrower as opposed to the pitcher that we were accustomed to seeing from Walker Buehler, trying to dial it up with 97, 98 mile per hour fastballs. And that just wasn't working for Buehler. Instead, he's kind of lowered the velocity a couple ticks, and there's certainly a lot more spin rate on it. And I got the graph right here of just kind of how filthy Buehler's stuff was tonight. So pulling that up right now. So credit to Thomas Nestico. You can follow him at TJ Stats. For Walker Buehler, his fastball had TJ stuff plus of 103. And I don't know the metrics of how he measures this, but 100 is the medium, and anything above 100 is considered filthy. So on his four seam fastball, he had nearly 46.5% whiff rate, meaning that no one was even being able close to touching his fastball. The filthiest pitch that Walker Buehler threw tonight was the sweeper. He threw it 9 times, but the stuff on that was the best of any of his pitches, and the Yankees hitters whiffed 33% of the time. Point plain and simple here is Walker Buehler had complete command of all his pitches tonight. He carried over what he did in the NLCS, looked even better in the World Series tonight. The Yankees had no answer for him. He struck out Aaron Judge, who's just been abysmal in this series. He kept Juan Soto in check, and that's why we got the 5 shutout innings from Walker Buehler. Felt like maybe Dave Roberts pulled him a little bit early, but ultimately it worked out for Dave Roberts because the bullpen guy collectively, they were all able to get it done. There were a few jams that the next man up had to get it done, but that's why they're the Dodger Dogs.
Yeah. And also, too, not to take anything away from Walker tonight, there was some outstanding defense behind him as well. And Teoscar Hernandez throwing out Giancarlo Stanton on a one-hopper to Will Smith. I don't know why the third base coach was giving Stanton the go-ahead after the Anthony Volpe single. Stanton does not have wheels. I mean, he actually looks slower than Pete the Polar Bear Alonso, and I don't even know how that's possible right there. So a nice one-hopper. Mookie Betts robbed Jazz Chisholm of a base hit with that diving catch. Muncy with the nice ground, throwing out Trevino on a slow roller to third. And other guys made good plays as well. So Buehler had good defense behind him tonight. I really think that was the story of the game. The defense, Buehler's start, and some early offense to kind of give him a margin for error. And then, we always talk about it, Kev. When these starting pitchers have early run support, it is so key for them to just go out there and execute their pitches and feel like, I could breathe. There is a margin for error. And now I could just kind of go out there and be more aggressive in the zone. And that's what we saw from Buehler tonight.
I'm going to read some comments here to give some shout out to the listeners. Zach Sloan, huge sack for Buehler. No doubt about it. Craig Osterberg saying Walker was outstanding. Harmony Davis, and people say Buehler is past his prime. Well, in the regular season, it was a really bumpy ride for Walker Buehler, and they had to put him on the IL a second time, and he was away from the team, did his own thing in Florida. And then when he came back, he was a little spotty at times, but ultimately the Dodgers got it right because before the season began, they said they were building Walker Buehler up to be the beast that he is in October. And they hit the nail on the head. They got their guy, another Oral Hershiser, another Fernando Valenzuela. When October rolls around, we are going to always talk about Walker Buehler being one of the best big game pitchers to ever wear a Dodgers uniform. And I'm just so happy that we're near the finish line here. And a guy like Walker Buehler can hopefully say he's led this team to 2 World Series championships. Once you have multiple World Series titles, you are in another tier. You are in the upper echelon of legends, especially in the great honor of all the players that have ever put on a Dodgers uniform. And Walker Buehler is in that category of the all-time greats and will no doubt, in my mind, be in the Dodgers Ring of Honor one day.
Yeah, and right now he's helping his own value. That's the other thing. If this is his last start of the season, I'm sure teams are going to be turning their heads and saying, yeah, he struggled during the regular season. The numbers were pedestrian, but you know what? We saw what he did in October when it mattered. And we wonder now, can he build on that, what he did in these 3-4 starts in October, and build on that over the course of 162 games next year? So I think that's going to be the thing. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he ends up back with the Dodgers. And if he does, Kev, I also don't believe it's just going to be on a 1-year deal worth $5-6 million on a prove-it deal. I think that he could be in line potentially for at least a 2+1 or something along those lines. And given the shallow market for pitching and all the injuries we've had in the league this past year, there could be more offers for more years. It's really going to come down to Walker. I really think as of right now, he's holding all the cards. I know I'm kind of going further down the rabbit hole, but I think this is something just to consider for now. But job's not done. As of now, he's a Dodger, so let's just focus on that.
No, that's a really good point, and definitely something we'll talk about when the offseason rolls around. But Walker Buehler went from a guy, definitely 1 year was the best he was going to get, like a Noah Syndergaard type contract, maybe 13 million. But now there's 29 other teams watching this World Series, and they might be willing to pony up some extra bucks to get a guy like Walker Buehler in their pitching staff. So it's actually going to be pretty interesting to see what the market is. I would say prior to the postseason, yeah, there would not have been a lot of interest, but now that he's got the stuff again, teams are going to look at that and they're going to definitely have a lot more consideration for Walker Buehler. Anna Pineda, I knew Buehler was going to shove. I love the confidence there. I have something I knew as well, not about Walker Buehler, but on the other side of the New York Yankees, but I'll get to that in a couple minutes. Dennis Gonzalez. Walker needs to be re-signed. Maria G. I always believed in Buehler, and we'll stop there and let's talk about the rest of this game. So we're good on Buehler right now. He was awesome, fantastic performance, A plus, kept the Dodgers in this game. Now let's turn it over to Clark Schmidt, who was in a very tough spot because the Yankees are already down 0-2 in this series. They turned to a pretty young, inexperienced Clark Schmidt, who in the first half of the season pitched very well for them. I believe the graphic showed had about a 2.5 ERA, but then he missed about 3 months or so with a lat injury, kind of similar to what the Dodgers experienced with Ryan Pepiot last season. Right. But then they got Schmidt kind of near the tail end of the season, but Schmidt wasn't the same pitcher. ERA was about 3.5, didn't record a win, pitched decently enough in the first 2 rounds for the Yankees, but unlike Cameron Maybin, who thinks it was tough competition, we can't forget he was facing the Kansas City Royals and the Cleveland Guardians. So no offense to Clark Schmidt, but that's nowhere near a Dodgers lineup that you're going to face. And the Dodgers made him pay instantly. In the first inning, Freddie Freeman went yard, another shot to right field, 3rd consecutive game, 5th consecutive World Series game overall, because he homered for the Atlanta Braves in their last 2 games. Then he carries it over to the Dodgers. He's homered in 3 straight World Series games in the year 2024. It's pretty much a slam dunk. He's going to be the World Series MVP. There's not even a debate. I don't even think there's a close number 2. So it's Freddie Freeman's award, assuming they win. But yeah, anyways, Freddie Freeman gave the Dodgers a 2-0 lead. And from that point on, Clark Schmidt really was never that effective. They knocked him out after they knocked him out in the 3rd inning because he only went 2 2/3 innings, gave up 2 hits, was wild, had 4 walks, 3 earned runs. And I'm just going to say this now, and it's easy to say this in hindsight, but of all the pitchers the Dodgers faced in this entirety of the postseason, there was no one more confident that I felt that this Dodgers team was going to chase and knock out than this guy who sounds like he's from a terrible Christmas movie with his name being Clark Schmidt.
Oh man. And you know what's funny? I had the exact opposite idea because I'm thinking, okay, it's 2-0. Dodgers just got past their 2 best pitchers. We all know, Kev, we've all watched enough World Series and postseason baseball. There's always that random guy that comes through, had a terrible regular season or injury-riddled regular season, not a good postseason, and then all of a sudden they put together a good start. The example that I use that we were talking about offline just now was Derek Lowe. Game 4 of the ALCS, of the 2004 ALCS. Yankees down, or Yankees up 3-0 over the Red Sox. Boston needs a win to stay alive. And what did he do? He came through with a great start and gave the Red Sox a chance and beat them. So it wasn't beyond the realm of possibilities that Clark Schmidt, I'm glad you were right and I was wrong, but it wasn't beyond the realm of possibilities. I'm like, is this going to be that random dude that has a great night and then Buehler maybe goes back to being what he was maybe in Game 3 against the Padres? I'm glad it didn't happen that way. And Schmidt, just like we saw with Manaea, with Quintana, with Dylan Cease, with some of these other pitchers that the Dodgers have seen in the playoffs, they grinded him out. It wasn't just the home runs, or I'm sorry, the home run by Freeman and the RBI single by Betts. It was the at-bat quality. It was working the counts. Even if you were making outs, making him throw 6-7 pitches so he can get an early hook, so you can get to that bullpen a little bit quicker. And, we saw that tonight. So, yeah, Schmidt was not his best. And, not to go too far ahead, but I got to imagine the Yankees at this point, they either have to consider a bullpen game themselves tomorrow night, or put Garrett Cole out there on 3 days rest. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to talk about that with you, and
I
we're gonna get there for sure. I definitely have some thoughts on how they're gonna approach that, but yeah, no, you brought up some pitchers that I was gonna do the same thing. The fact that the Dodgers were able to pummel Dylan Cease not once but twice in this postseason, they got to Michael King, who was unhittable against the Atlanta Braves in a loss, but they still got to Michael King. They took care of business against Quintana, Manaya, Severino. And then the fact that they absolutely pummeled Carlos Rodon, and Garrett Cole was the only one that really did well against them, along with Yu Darvish. But this series alone, Garrett Cole pitched well. I felt like based off the number of talented pitchers that the Dodgers have gotten to, a guy like Clark Schmidt did not worry me at all. And Freddie Freeman, being that the veteran he is, a Hall of Famer, the future World Series MVP, giving Walker Buehler a 2-0 lead in the first inning really kept the Yankees fans in their seat after already being down 2-0, as we already all know. And now you're down 2-0 in another game with being on the brink of being down 3-0. Taking the crowd out of it was huge for both the Dodgers bats and Walker Buehler. And I feel like that paid huge dividends with the momentum.
Absolutely. And you combine that with, even though the Dodgers had wasted some opportunities, like, for example, Gavin Lux being out at home plate, but it became a wash because then Stanton was thrown out at home plate. So instead of the momentum going to the Yankees, it goes back to you. So, they just did enough tonight. It wasn't a beautiful performance. It wasn't a dominant performance. It wasn't like what we saw at Citi Field a few weeks back where you're winning 10-2 or 10-3 or anything like that. It was just doing enough to win. And like I just told you, Kev, before we started, enough sometimes is enough. You don't need to be dominant. You don't need to be blowing out the opponent because who cares? At the end of the day, you're only going to get one win for it anyway. So do what you have to do, get the win, get the 27 outs, be one run better than the other team, and keep it pushing. And so far in all three of these games, particularly the last two, we have seen that from the Dodgers being able to close out close games. And tonight was no different.
Absolutely. Hit that like button, guys, while you're here. You can drop some questions as well. I'm going to go through the chat a little bit more and kind of let that be segues to things we want to talk about. So Zach Sloan, it took a perfect throw to get Stanton. He should have been sent. Well, I will say Giancarlo Stanton was slower than a grandma in a bingo hall. Stanton was slower than any turtle. Stanton was one of the slow. That was a lazy ass jog. That was like Joe Biden-esque running down the White House hallway. This guy was so slow, and the stats back it up. He has like a 3. He's in the 3 percentile, so the very, very, very near bottom of speed in this game. It was the right send, I think, but Teoscar with a brilliant throw nailed him, pitch perfect, and that's how it goes sometimes. Stanton just needed to be a little faster, and it just hasn't been the Yankee series.
No, it hasn't. And Stanton's been great. 2 more base hits tonight. He's had an outstanding October, and it's sort of mitigated the disaster that's been Aaron Judge. I know Judge was on base twice tonight on a fielder's choice and a walk, but that power just has not been there. He struck out a lot. He did hit a nice high fly ball, but it turned out to be a can of corn to Teoscar Hernandez. So the fact that Stanton has been able to kind of, like I said, wash out some of the awful production from Judge by being more consistent and backing up Juan Soto, that's what's really kept the Yankees alive in some of these games, not just in this series, but throughout the postseason. So, I still think the Yankees might have one game in them, and Kev, I remembered this too. And I was telling somebody at my day job today, I was like, I'm wondering if Judge is going to have that moment like Pete Alonso. Remember, Pete Alonso was struggling so much through the first 3-4 games of that series. And then what happened in game 5? He exploded. The 3-run home run. It set the tone for the blowout win for the Mets over the Dodgers. So I'm wondering if Judge still has one more of those games in him, that can ultimately maybe keep the Yankees alive. I don't know yet. But, that's just what I was thinking on that. But, yeah, going back to Stanton, 2 outs, Volpe hit. You're trying to get a run anyway across and change the momentum. I get it, but still, Rizzo's on deck. Good professional hitter. I would have tested that more so than, getting thrown out at the plate. That's just me.
Yeah. What was I gonna? So Aaron Judge, it's very possible he might have that big game, but it's too little, too late. This is gonna go down in my book as maybe the worst finals performance I've ever seen from a professional athlete. LeBron James in 2011 against the Dallas Mavericks hold the candle, but I think with what Aaron Judge has done in this World Series, the torch is going to be passed. Judge has sucked. There's no nice way to put it.
He's been
It.
bad. Yeah.
It's just been atrocious to see a guy that's the AL MVP and to have this showing in the World Series after there was so much hype between the Dodgers and the Yankees meeting up. Give credit to Juan Soto. He showed up with the bat. Ohtani has kind of been underwhelming himself, and that's fine because Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, who I'm about to talk about right now with Mookie Betts, he drove in the third run tonight for the Dodgers. It was a weird like defensive swing that I felt like a guy like Juan Soto, you have to make that catch, but he's just been terrible defensively this entire series. I am not moved, and we'll talk about it in the offseason some more, but the Dodgers are already linked to Juan Soto. I have no interest really because I don't think defensively he makes a lot of sense. He's a liability out there in right field, and we already have our DH for the next decade in Shohei Ohtani. I'd much rather pay Teoscar Hernandez and give him a corner outfield spot. And I know Juan Soto's a tremendous talent, but defensively, he's been a circus. He's been like Andy Pages, what we saw in the regular season, but just disappointing in my book.
And at least Pages has had, like, he's got the arm. His routes are not that great, but I mean, also too, that's not a fair comparison. Andy Pages is a rookie, just got called up this year. Juan Soto's been in the game now. I believe this is his 6th season. So if he hasn't figured out how to be a good defensive outfielder by now, it ain't going. To quote the janitor from Rudy, it ain't going to never happen. So yeah, that's what I think. But going back to your point about Soto, those sinking little flares, because you're usually playing back, those are tough to field sometimes. And, I didn't think that he got a good jump on it. I don't think he got a good read on it. Maybe he thought it was going to drift foul. It's just one of those in-between ones. That almost happened with Chisholm, by the way. Chisholm hit a little flare, sinking fast. Mookie had a better beat on it because it had more hang time, and he was able to make that play. But yeah, I agree with you. Soto's not great defensively. I don't think the Dodgers are serious for Juan Soto. And even if they are, I would put them 3rd or 4th behind the 2 New York teams, maybe the Phillies, and maybe a mystery team. So they could even be in 4th or 5th place. I think there are other issues to address, like shortstop, like Teoscar, and like the rotation.
Yes. I agree 100%. And I'm just going to say, if Mookie Betts was out there defensively, he would have made that catch. Steve A saying, we shouldn't be worried about anything with the Dodgers other than getting one more win. So close to a world title. Hell yeah. Let's go down the lines, trying to just see if there's anything else that we can mention in the comments.
Just win, baby.
Elisa, did anyone else notice how many empty seats there were? I didn't feel like the stadium was empty, but maybe towards the end of the game, a lot of people were heading towards the exits. But I will say our partners over at TickPick, World Series tickets for Game 4 have dropped like $1,000 to get in for that Game 4 against Dodgers Yankees at Yankee Stadium. So I think most of the Yankees fans have quit, or it's a bear market right now. So if you're looking to get your tickets for a Game 4 World Series, if you live in New York, or you want to fly out last second and see the Dodgers potentially clinch at Yankee Stadium, I highly recommend going to the TickPick app because there are no service fees at checkout. 100% buyer guarantee satisfaction, and your tickets are protected, and it's a really easy app to navigate. No hidden fees, none of that BS. And compared to the rest of the other ticket sites, promise you it's better than the other guys. Eric Flores saying, let's close it out.
Yeah, Kev, I know you're still, go ahead, go through the comments. I have a question for you and I even posted this on my social media about the Yankees and some of their strategy tonight. Go ahead, though. Continue.
Okay. Nick S., are the Yanks an NL wildcard team? Interesting question from Nick, but I will say if the Yankees were in the National League, they wouldn't have reached the NLCS. It seems like it's pretty apparent that the true World Series was between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. And maybe that should have been a best-of-7 series because it could have gone down as an all-timer Instead, it goes 5. Dodgers take care of business. And I think of all the series we've seen across Major League Baseball this year, that was the most emphatic and the most enticing one of any matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, sometimes, and here's the thing, I really don't want to dump on the Yankees. 94 wins this year, competitive division once again, because you have the Orioles that are there. The Rays always seem to be in it. We did not anticipate 3 AL Central teams making it as far as they did, nor did we anticipate the Houston Astros getting bounced as early as they did. Listen, sometimes there's a path of least resistance. So let's not dump on them and say this and that. That's still a very good team, a loaded lineup, a solid pitching staff that's gotten the job done to this point. And they've won a lot of nip-tuck games, guys. That's the other thing. They've won extra inning games. They're for a team that didn't have, just like the Dodgers, they kind of have a spit and glue rotation. I mean, this was not their plan. And this brings me to my next point, Kev, about the rotation. Are you surprised we have not seen Marcus Stroman at all? Like, I was really surprised that with that many innings tonight, that Boone was going to probably conserve some of those arms, knowing he doesn't have a great starter in Luis Hill potentially in game 4. And I thought, maybe do you throw Stroman out there and just see what he's got to maybe eat up some innings and maybe save some of those arms for a potential game 4? Unless, of course, his plan all along was, if we go down 0-3, we're going to have Cole out there. I mean, I'm just kind of, can you just shed some light on Marcus Stroman not being used? He's almost been used like Landon Knack at this point. He's the Yankees version of Knack, and that's a former All-Star.
Even less, because I don't think they pitched him at all in the ALCS.
No.
It actually doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you're not going to use him at all, why is he on the roster? You've got guys like Adam Ottavino, who are perfectly healthy as far as I'm aware, and you've got Marcus Stroman, who's just a high-paid cheerleader at this point. So I don't know if they're dealing with some type of injury that they're covering up and they want him on as a decoy. It's clearly not working. I actually have no explanation as to why they would roster Marcus Stroman if they're not going to use him. It doesn't make any sense, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. And I just, like I said, because Luis Hill is going to be similar to Clark Schmidt. See, here was the interesting part about the Dodgers winning those first 2 games. You hit the guys, or you beat the guys that were going to go the longest. Clark Schmidt has only thrown 4 innings, maybe 5 in his 2 starts in these playoffs, right? And Luis Hill started for the first time in the ALCS. I believe it was in game 4 against the Guardians, and he only went a few innings in that game as well. So, I mean, essentially, we talk about the Dodgers having a scheduled bullpen game. They've at least done this. They're about to do this for the 4th time. The Yankees, on the other hand, they haven't done it. So that's why I was saying tonight would have been the opportunity, not necessarily throwing a white flag, but throwing Stroman out there to see what he's got, or giving Nestor Cortez some extended time so you could save some of those high leverage arms for a game 4. Because then there's no tomorrow if you lose. So I just kind of thought the strategy tonight for Aaron Boone was kind of interesting. Now, granted, it kept him in the game. He only gave up 1 run over the last 6 2/3 innings, however many, or 6 1/3, I should say. Yeah. So they kept the game tight. It wasn't like the Dodgers ever pulled away, but still, it was just interesting to me. That's all. I understand why the Dodgers did it. Dodgers were going for the throat tonight. They wanted to get themselves a 3-0, give themselves a margin for error in case the bullpen gets blown up tomorrow or something happens or whatnot. And even then, you're going to probably see a steady diet of Honeywell and Casparius and whatnot. But for the Yankees, I just thought it was interesting not to at least throw Stroman out there for a few innings. That's all.
I want to talk about what I think is going to happen in game 4 with you, but Dennis Gonzalez bringing me to my next point. Fat Joe. My goodness, my ears were bleeding from one of the worst performances I've ever seen on national television. Put it next to Fergie singing the national anthem, because Fat Joe, what he laid out there, he literally went out there on Yankee Stadium in his little Yankees merchandise. He's not even Fat Joe anymore. He's like Ozempic Joe or something. But basically with his performance, he laid a big shit out there on the mound, made everybody dead silent. And I think Yankees fans can maybe hold him partly accountable for their, once again, near shutout performance they had. If it wasn't for Alex Verdugo and his little late second Mickey Mouse home run, they would have been shut out for the first time in a World Series since 2003 on the hands of Josh Beckett. But Fat Joe tonight, what a disgrace. Do you think of all the great New York icons? I would have taken a corpse from Frank Sinatra over Fat Joe tonight. If they had put Frank Sinatra's dead body out there, that would have been more hyped than what we saw from Fat Joe. That was just a disgrace. Major League Baseball and the Yankees organization needs to be embarrassed, and they owe us an apology for having us to sit through a disgusting, terrible performance by Fat Joe. Ice Cube cleared his ass, and just like the Dodgers right now, they're clearing the Yankees' asses.
Wow. Actually, I didn't think it was that bad. I just, I just thought it was kind of interesting. Nothing could stop me. I'm all the way up. I'm like, I mean, it was all right. It wasn't horrible. Was it as good as Ice Cube? I agree. It wasn't. But Cube's a legend in his own right. I mean, yeah, you could have gotten Jay-Z. You could have gotten, him with Alicia Keys doing Empire State of Mind or something like that. I think that would have been a pretty awesome performance. And yeah, you're right. There are a lot of good New York performers, and to not get one of them. But, Fat Joe is always present at all of these, whether it's a Knicks game, a Yankees game, he's always present. So maybe he was just available at that time. Who knows? But yeah, clearly Cube was better. All in all, I have to say, today was a good day.
According to Eric Flores, he's saying that the Locked On Yankees podcast was calling Walker Buehler an opener. I'll have to tune in for that, because I will say another thing that's been kind of pitiful is the Yankees media and podcasters and all the coverage. They are just doing a terrible job. You got Stephen A. Smith on First Take, has no clue what's going on in the World Series, called the Dodgers bullpen a big liability, as opposed to thinking, this was the way the Yankees could beat the Dodgers. Shame on you. You've got Chris the Mad Dog Russo, who was all about the Yankees, and then after the Dodgers pummeled them in a game or two, he's completely turned on the Yankees, and now he's claiming he's a Dodgers homer. And then you've just got the Yankees coverage in general. They're like, even though you got A-Rod and Derek Jeter who are clowns on Fox, it's like you might as well just walk out in your Yankees uniforms, because you're providing zero value right now for the casual baseball fan that's tuning in and kind of hoping for some type of intelligent analysis. Instead, you got A-Rod, who's like, no, it's not over for the Yankees yet. He probably still thinks they're going to come back from down 3-0. It's like, it's just been disappointing, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you expect? Jeter, A-Rod, these guys, Jeter's won 5 championships with the Yankees. A-Rod won one in 2009 that he actually led the team to. All these other guys, the Yankees have the history on their side and everything like that. And by the way, this isn't new. There's always kind of the accusation from LA fans of East Coast bias. Don't forget the Lakers Celtics championship rounds in 2008 and 2010. People were accusing Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson of the same thing. East Coast bias. They never give the Lakers any love and everything like that. To me, it's what it is. The Yankees are here. They've got the history on their side. They've got an MVP on their team, just like the Dodgers do. But let's look at the facts. The Dodgers starting pitching has been better. The Dodgers clutch hitting has been better. The Dodger bullpen has been better. I mean, those are just the facts. And Dave Roberts, even though I didn't think his managing was super great tonight, some of the hit and run and some of the other things that didn't quite pan out that well, I could appreciate the aggression. I just kind of thought it was too aggressive for their own good. But still, I think even Dave Roberts has outfoxed Aaron Boone. So, I mean, how have the Yankees been better? They're down 0-3. And by the way, 2 years ago, when they got bounced out of the playoffs, they were also swept by the Houston Astros on their home field. So this isn't new for them to get swept in a playoff series, especially not recently. So I just want to throw that out there as well.
Absolutely. So let's talk game 4 now. So you mentioned kind of what you think the approach might be. I'm just going to say it right now. I think there's no chance Garrett Cole starts this game for the New York Yankees. There's a few factors why. Before this game even took place, one of the Yankees reporters, I think his name's like Brian Hoyk or something, according to Aaron Boone, there's no situation possible where they're going to go with Garrett Cole, is what Boone said prior to the game. Mm-hmm. But I'll say why I think it's not going to happen regardless. Garrett Cole's been nursing a bad elbow all season long. Mm-hmm. And you're really going to put your guy that you've committed still, I think another 5 years, probably 30 million a year to, and put him in a situation where you potentially set him up for a season ending injury into 2026 that could bleed into 2027.
Right.
I don't see it happening. Not only that, he is a Scott Boras client. So Scott Boras is never going to put his guys in a situation where they can get severely injured and jeopardize their career. We saw that with Max Scherzer a few years ago. Another factor that I think Cole and his camp are still thinking about, I believe Garrett Cole has an opt-out after this season. So he might end up opting out altogether and go back out in the open market, try to lock in some more years. And not only all of that, it's still the Yankees still have to win 4 games. So if you use Cole on short rest, I don't think you get him until another game 7. So I think what we expect tomorrow, it's almost going to be like the Yankees could be waving the white flag, but obviously they won't. I think Luis Gil will be their starter. It'll
Definitely.
ultimately probably turn into a bullpen game. They're
Right.
going to hope that they can slug their way into a victory. And then you turn to Garrett Cole on his normal rest in game 5. And then you go back to LA and you just hope some miracle happens with Rodon in game 6. That blister bullshit, which pisses me off. I don't know if you heard about that, but apparently Carlos Rodon was blaming a blister as to why he pitched poorly. I call bullshit on that.
I don't like these lame excuses after the fact. Just like when Flaherty got his ass kicked in Game 5 against the Mets. Listen, I was under the weather. Okay, man. I mean, just say you were bad. Okay, and if you are under the weather, don't tell us after the fact. That's just a BS cop out. I'm so sick of these lame ass excuses. Who is hurt? Who is not? All that stuff. Who's sick? Whose grandmother's in the hospital or anything like that. Listen, we all got problems. Okay. But if you clock in, you got a job to do. And if you do it badly, just say, I did the job badly, not any of these other lame ass excuses. So yeah, I agree with you on that. And I just think it's lame tonight. And I'm sure this will also get brought up, Kevin, and I'm sure it's already blasted on social media, how bad the home plate umpire was. And he was bad for both teams. The Yankees they were feeling it more because they were trailing the entire game. Jazz Chisholm was clearly out of sorts in that at bat. And I even knew, I was like, this guy's got a strikeout coming. The Gleyber Torres strikeout, to be honest, at first I was like, wait, that's a ball unless he went around. And, that was the other thing. But still, even then, you got to adjust to the strike zone as best as you can. You can't even blame that on the reason why you lost on a home plate umpire. It wasn't his fault that Giancarlo Stanton's slow ass got thrown out at the plate.
Yeah, that's what Anna Pineda wanted us to mention. The ump was not good tonight. Very inconsistent. Definitely some high pitches that were called for strikes when they weren't even close to the strike zone. The one play that really irked me, which I think we already covered briefly, was Gavin Lux being ruled out at home. Trevino clearly was kind of blocking it, in my opinion. And regardless, I felt like Lux's hand got in there before the tag. Mm-hmm. And in the World Series, you got to get these calls right. I don't know if New York is trying to extend this series, but I think Lux was safe, and I think they just completely blew that call.
Oh, no question about it. I thought he was safe on 2 accounts. I agree. His hand got in under the tag, but furthermore, Trevino's knee. Now, I don't understand the full ruling of catcher's interference and providing a lane and everything like that to the plate, but I was like, it looked like his knee was crouching home plate. So does that count as interference, or is that sort of a wobbler? So I thought there were 2. Even Dave pointed out, you could read his lips, he's blocking the plate. So there you go. So, I mean, look, in the end, it didn't matter. But in a game like that, where you're trying to tack on runs, you're going for the throat, you're trying to stretch the lead so you could stay away maybe from some of those high leverage arms. Sometimes those things matter. And that's why I was saying the whole night, I was saying this in game 2 as well, tack on runs. Tack on runs. Don't put yourself in a predicament where, like tonight, Verdugo hits the 2-run homer. If Gleyber Torres gets on base, Juan Soto's the tying run. And that's the one guy who would love to be the hero in that moment. So I'm just saying, those are things, better situational hitting, should have been better tonight. The bullpen should have been more efficient. But, hey, a win is a win. And in a World Series, it's just about winning and moving on. So can't complain too much.
I do want to continue with the game 4 pitching matchups and kind of what I'm expecting. So to finish off with Luis Gil, in the second half, he appeared in 10 games for the Yankees. and he definitely struggled as opposed to a pretty good first half. In the second half, he had a 4.20 ERA and a 1.4 whip. It looks like his walks increased exponentially, 28 walks across 49 innings thrown, and even the strikeout numbers dipped a little bit. 53 strikeouts over 49 innings thrown. So kind of what I expect tomorrow. I think a guy like Luis Gil is going to be rattled. I don't think he's going to last in this game very long. Would not be surprised if he gets yanked by the fourth inning. I think the Dodgers will get 3, if not 4 walks on this guy. And it's ultimately going to come down to the execution with runners in scoring position. And a guy like Mookie Betts or Max Muncy or even Will Smith, who's been very quiet in this series, they've got to have the big knockout punch. And I think that's the approach for the Dodgers. Now, on the flip side, I think it'll be interesting to talk with you real quick. What do the Dodgers do? Because we know it's a bullpen game, but who's actually going? So I'll start it off with this thought. I think Ryan Brazier's opening the game for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is what I was talking about. Nobody was efficient tonight out of the bullpen. Everybody threw a lot of pitches. Nobody had a quick, 10, 11, 12 pitch inning. So yeah, Brazier's probably the best at, and not to mention, I think tonight, and you wonder, was this a warm-up back? Let's see. Remember, Brazier comes in the 8th inning to face 2, 3, and 4, which I thought was the Yankees' last gasp. And outside of the walk to Judge, he was outstanding. He gets Stanton to strike out. He gets Soto to fly out. And then I think he got Chisholm to strike out. So, yeah, so outside of the walk, he was good, which I don't mind those walks. A one-out walk to Judge, okay, that's fine. I'll attack Stanton. Maybe I like that matchup better. But, yes, I do believe we'll see one opener. I think Honeywell for chunk. I would say 3 to 4 innings out of Honeywell. Mm-hmm. Or, hear me out on this. What if I'm going to be like Samuel L. Jackson from Jackie Brown? Or, check this out. What about this? Kasparius for 2 innings to start. Kasparius for 2 innings. Honeywell for 3. And then that gets you into the later innings. And maybe you have Trinan with an extra day off. Maybe give you 2 innings. I mean, what do you think about that strategy?
I think we're almost on the same page. I think you got to go with a decent leverage arm to start with the big opening act for the Yankees. And then you bring in Kasparius. So I could see Kasparius going innings 2 and 3, and hopefully that sets it up for the top of the Yankees order once again in the 4th. And that's where you decide, do you want to go with one of your high leverage arms? Do you go with Michael Kopech? Do you roll the dice and try Daniel Hudson out, who's been a little shaky? And then or you go with Alex Vesia and just say, I want this guy because he can get both sides out and I get him guaranteed against Juan Soto. And then I think maybe depending on what the score is, that's when you roll out with a guy like Brent Honeywell and you just let that guy eat innings, 3, 4 innings if needed. And then you get to the 8th or 9th inning. And in my ideal scenario, I could see Blake Trinan closing it out and being the last pitcher on the mound for the Dodgers. And hopefully a World Series clinch scenario.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow, but I agree. I think we're going to see Kasparius and Honeywell as the chunk guys. I think the question is going to be which of the high leverage arms, in addition to Trinan, are going to be available. I think Vesia did not throw many pitches tonight. He only got 1 out. So I guess you could throw him in there. Maybe who else? What did Kopech do tonight pitch-wise?
24.
Maybe 24, yeah. And Brazier threw over 20 tonight. Hudson threw a lot, over 20. So maybe Gratterall threw over 20 tonight too. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate this. But I think Kasparius and Honeywell got to be the chunk guys tomorrow. They've got to get you those middle innings and see if they can give you at very least maybe 3 innings apiece. I mean, what do you think about that? Is that fair? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you're trying to win this. So Dave Roberts will have some urgency, no doubt in my mind. I don't think they have the idea of punting the game, but if it gets ugly for some reason and the Yankees go up like 5-0, then maybe I could see Dave Roberts conceding it after the 4th or 5th inning if the bats are silent and you turn the ball over to Jack Flaherty for game 5 and hopefully that ends it. But yeah, I think the Dodgers have the mindset. They're going in for the kill. They're the Cougar right now. They're going to tear the neck off that deer, and the Yankees are in for a rude awakening. Hopefully it's a sweep. We get the brooms out and that's it. It'll be a close World Series, but you'll look back in it and be like, hopefully we're saying it was a sweep, even though all the games were close, but Dodgers pulling out a sweep would be very beautiful.
It is. And sometimes, sometimes these series shake out that way. And we've seen a few sweeps and we've seen some close games within those sweeps. 07 Red Sox against the Rockies, the 04 Red Sox against the Cardinals. What's another one in recent memory? I guess there's another one too that at least went 5 games. Anyway, the point is sometimes it goes that way. Where games are close, but it ends up being a short series. I think Royals Mets 2015, that was a series that kept going back and forth, but the Royals basically won every close game and they lost 1 and they ended up still winning in 5. So yeah, we shall see. But tomorrow, how they navigate it, and furthermore, how the Yankees navigate it, that's going to be interesting to me, Kev. I'm looking forward to seeing what Aaron Boone has up his sleeve tomorrow, because I think we could essentially see 2 bullpen games.
Yeah. I want to make sure everyone get your questions in there. If you got comments for us, I'll get to read those out as well. I'm going to get to Peter G in just a second. But I will say Aaron Boone has been so great with his adjustments in this series. He pulled out a really bold move tonight when he brought in Jose Trevino to be a starting catcher over Austin Wells. What a game changer by Aaron Boone. You're down 0-2, and you think the one move that's going to make a difference in this series is subbing out Austin Wells for Jose Trevino. That one worked out good. Then they ended up bringing in Austin Wells, and they went a whopping 0-4. Aaron Boone is looking so smart in this series, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Peter G. This is a very hot take. LA tortas are better than New York pizza. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Man, I love me a good torta. Don't get me wrong, but I am Italian. I've eaten a lot of pizza, and in the town that I live in, there's a good New York style pizza place. But
yeah,
man, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I'll go. I'll buy that. LA tortas. Yeah, let's do it. The problem is with the New York pizza is like every pizza corner, every Ray's Pizza in New York City, and I've never been to New York City. This is just what I've heard. Is always good. So I mean, each his own, man. But yeah, you know what? I'm in a good mood tonight. So yeah, LA tortas.
Peter G, you're a Dodger fan, so I'm gonna cut you some slack here, but that's just too crazy of a take. I am one of the ultimate pizza guys. I've been to New York, I've been to Italy, I've been around the country. No place in the world has better pizza than New York City. The Jets suck, the Giants suck, the Yankees are on the verge of sucking. We killed the Mets in their dreams. We don't know about the New York Knicks, but the Nets suck. That's the only thing they got going in New York right now is their pizza and bagels.
And the New York Liberty. Give the shout out to the New York Liberty, first WNBA championship in 28 years. So they did have a little parade there. Yeah, I know some people disregard WNBA basketball, but I'm just saying a champ's a champ.
No, that's a legitimate title. I don't disregard that. I just completely forgot because I've been so invested in the MLB playoffs. Nothing else seems to be going on for me. So MB, are we getting a bullpen game for Game 4? Yes. Maybe too. Eric Flores, how is he a Gold Glove nominee? Yep. Juan Soto. That's very disappointing that they gave him the Gold Glove
nominee. Was that a mistake?
Well, it's facts, but yeah, I don't know why. Just going through the comments. Appreciate everyone saying everything. Zach Sloan, Roberts managing has been damn near flawless this postseason. That's 100% factual. This is the best Dave Roberts postseason performance I've ever seen from the guy. So it took a while. It took him a lot of attempts. It's like he flunked out of grade school a few times, but this go around, he seems to get it, and he's acing the test. So Roberts has been fantastic through the entire postseason.
I have a question for you, Kev. Any concerns about Shohei and the shoulder tonight? Do you think it was just he wasn't used to the pain tolerance and maybe he'll be more adjusted tomorrow? He was still on base twice, so that still counts for something, but you could just see those swings. He was wincing. He had his arm in a, I just want to get your take on that. Should anyone be worried? Because it's not like he was, on fire before the injury, but now it compounds some things. And I'm just wondering where the Dodgers should go from here. And furthermore, what Shohei.
Oh yeah. It definitely seems like the injury is a little bit cause for concern, and maybe the Dodgers are downplaying it. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to impact Shohei long term, but I do think there is some type of pain issue going on with Ohtani when he swings the bat. But yeah, the Dodgers just got to get through this game tomorrow, and hopefully he's got the entire offseason to heal up and get better. But that's just been the theme for this Dodgers team. Guys battling through injuries between Freddie Freeman, Lux is playing hurt. I'm sure Smith is hurt, and they're covering that up. Flaherty's had little things that have been nagging at him.
The bullpen,
exactly. And
Phillips.
And they're playing through it. One more thing I want to cover. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just want to say this. The MRI, I don't know if you picked up on this. I'm sure you did. No structural damage. So I don't think he'll need any sort of off-season surgery. Like everyone was saying, oh, no, it's like the Bellinger injury. Bellinger actually had a tear, though, in the labrum. So he needed surgery. And after that, I just don't think he was ever quite the same. At least with Ohtani, it doesn't seem to be any structural damage. Obviously, they were scrambling. So who knows how accurate that MRI was. But just taking it on face value, no surgery or no structural damage. So I'm leading to believe that this is, like you said, a pain tolerance thing, and he's just not used to it. And maybe now, he'll get some treatment overnight and be a little bit better tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, so this will be my last call for you guys to get your questions and comments in. Hit that like button while you're here. Only going to do the show for a few more minutes and then calling it a night. So get those key questions in. So I want to just highlight once again the difference in this series. Who would have thought, because it seemed like not necessarily a weakness, but adversity for this Dodgers team, and that was the starting pitching. And they have stepped up in this series. The big three horses, Jack Flaherty, who went 5 1/3, only 2 earned runs allowed, 6 strikeouts in game 1. Then we saw Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitch 6 1/3 innings, only allowed 1 earned run, and he had 4 strikeouts. And tonight, Walker Buehler threw 5 shutout innings, had 5 strikeouts as well. And honestly, without this starting pitcher and those 3, we talked about it all season long. They had a lot of depth, and they just kept losing their reinforcements throughout the season between Glasnow and Stone and Miller sucking and River Ryan, no Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, if I didn't already throw his name out there, Kershaw getting hurt. The list goes on and on. Right. And ultimately, the Dodgers just needed 3 starters, it turns out, to be healthy. And I've said it before. I think with the key guy they needed to go on this run, and if they didn't have him, it would have been over. They would have been cooked. It's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. If they didn't have Yamamoto, this team would not be where they're at. That was the big signing. There's a reason they invested heavily in this guy. And maybe it's a blessing in disguise that he missed 3 months or whatever with the injury, because with each start in the playoffs, he looks sharper and sharper, and he has a fresh arm.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And there are times where a weakness going into the postseason, or what's perceived to be the weakness, ends up becoming a strength somehow. Because like you said, guys hit their stride at the right time. And that's what I said at the beginning of the show, that you need to get hot at the right time. That's what it's about. I go back to 2019. Everyone thought that the Washington Nationals, as good of a rotation as they had with Strasburg and Scherzer and Corbin and those guys, that their bullpen, oh my God, the Dodgers are going to kill their bullpen. And Daniel Hudson was on that bullpen. Their bullpen was fantastic. Daniel Hudson emerged as a closer. You had other guys that stepped up as a good setup man with Tanner Rainey. Good management by Dave Martinez, using that 4th starter to get chunk innings in the later innings and whatnot. Sometimes the perceived weakness can sometimes end up being the strength in October. And that is the beauty, the anomaly, the frustration, the jubilation of October baseball, no matter what side you're on. The weakness becomes a strength. The strength becomes the weakness. It's just a fickle thing. It's its own season. So I'm glad you pointed that out, Kev, because I agree with you. These 3 guys have been outstanding.
Yes. Dropping right now a link to join our Discord chat if you guys want to join. We got hopefully 1 game left, and then we go into the off-season mode where you can keep up with all the rumors and Dodger signings and trades, and that will be fun. Try to remember. I think the Discord existed when the Ohtani news broke, but I can't remember, to be honest. So we got 1 question left from Dennis Gonzalez, and then closing thoughts, I guess. So Dennis asking, do you think Friedman will successfully extend a contract to Jack Flaherty? Oh man. Guess I'm going out on a low note here. I don't think Jack Flaherty is going to be re-signed by the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think the reason being is they're going all in on Blake Snell. That's my prediction. I think they're going to they're going to get the Brinks trucks, and they're going to want an ace left-handed pitcher because they just haven't had a guy since Kershaw, to be quite frank. And with Flaherty, he's been great, but I don't know if he's someone they want long-term. I think they view him as just a rental. I think they go with Blake Snell. So I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I also think if, Flaherty's had a very good postseason, I would say one bad start, but two great starts, and then one that was just kind of mediocre against the Padres in game 2. So he's done well. So I think I'm sure they'll talk to him and his representation and stuff like that and just see what he wants. But also, too, you have to understand when these guys pitch well in October, and we mentioned this with Buehler, and they're going to be free agents, you want to maximize that value. Your value will never be higher, especially if the Dodgers end up winning, which I think we could all agree. I think they will. If not in game 4, then certainly in game 5. To be a World Series champion and be a big reason why you won that World Series championship, you got to max out your value. That's really what it comes down to. So I think they'll have discussions. I don't think he'll ultimately stay with go with Flaherty. I agree. I think Snell will be on the short-term wish list. I think you could throw Corbin Burns on there as well. I think they'll certainly be in the conversation. So we'll see what happens. Not to mention, there's a flood of guys that hopefully will be back next year as well. And, you only have so many spots. But I don't think the Dodgers are going to take any chances. I think they're going to be aggressive in free agency, not just with star-level pitchers, but even back-end guys as well.
Yes. So just dropped the last promotion, and you might not have any more opportunities if the Dodgers wrap it up tomorrow. So the Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead is still going on. Follow that X link below, and you can get an entry in. And then I'm going to give you listeners one more opportunity to get 3 more bonus raffle entries in there to get the free Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead. So when this live show concludes, which will be in like 2 or 3 minutes, go back into the comment section on the show and just mention something about Yamamoto in the comment section, and I'll give you 3 more bonus entry raffles. And then once this World Series concludes, we'll announce the winner. The Evan Phillips bobblehead giveaway was a success, and the user who entered, you can see that on our X. I'm already blanking on his name. Let me pull that up. Give him a quick shout out because I'm glad we had a cool winner. Yeah, I am blowing this right now because I don't. Here we go. So yeah, Jaime Gonzalez won the Evan Phillips bobblehead giveaway, and he confirmed he received it. So we've got the pictures to prove it. So yeah, enter the Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead giveaway. Okay, so Chris, what are your final thoughts? Anything else baseball related, miscellaneous, anything you want to cover before we get on out of here?
Don't mess around tomorrow. If you got a chance to jump on Luis Hill, similar to what they did tonight at Clark Schmidt, get that early run support. That's going to be key, especially in a game like tomorrow, where I don't know, even in a bullpen game, how many of those dogs are going to be available. So, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Close it out. Do not give this team any life. And not to mention an interesting stat, Kev, 4-game winning streak for the Dodgers right now. That's hard to do in the playoffs, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hell yeah. It's a beautiful sight. The Dodgers have just gotten better with every round. That's one of my big takeaways. Little shaky there in the NLDS, but they've just looked better in the NLCS and even better in the World Series. And something that I'm not accustomed to seeing with the Dodgers pitching is the starters are getting better with each round, which is something I thought I'd never see again. So they figured something out. Finally, we lost a lot of guys along the way. It was like a World War III, a lot of casualties, but the few survivors look like they're going to lead us to victory in this war. And if the Dodgers can seal this deal, because I'm not making any assumptions yet, we know what the Red Sox did in 2004, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. I am ready to celebrate. I'm ready to go to a parade. We just need one more win, so we've got that on our minds. And then once that's done, we're going to go fucking crazy. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. I don't have anything else to add. Enjoy the rest of your night. We're going to do this all again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. If you're listening on the audio feed, hit that subscribe button. Leave a 5-star review if you enjoy our content. If you're watching on YouTube or follow us on social media, drop a comment below, mention Yoshinobu Yamamoto, give you some more entries. We'll announce that winner for the bobblehead soon. And we're gonna peace on out of here. Everyone have a great rest of your night.